Welcome to the Bringing the Human Back to Human Resources podcast, the podcast all about the delicate balance between people and business, and quite literally reconnecting the two. My name is Tracy Rubin, and I've spent nearly my entire professional career in HR. Join me as I share stories, opinions, and words of advice with you each week. Hi, everyone. Welcome back to the podcast. Thank you for being here for another week. I'm so glad that you could join me. If you haven't yet, don't forget to rate, review, and subscribe. Share this episode or a favorite episode of yours with someone that you know, like, love, hate, doesn't matter. Share it. And if you have an opportunity, please give this show a 5-star review wherever you are listening. If you're listening on YouTube, then you can give this video a thumbs up and subscribe. Otherwise, you can totally give a 5-star review wherever you're listening. So this week, I'm going to be talking about something that a friend brought to my attention, which was that they really don't feel super appreciated by their boss, and how do they kind of navigate is really the question, how they navigate that situation and feeling undervalued, underappreciated, and really not given a whole lot of time of day. So we'll talk about that this week. And before I jump in, I just want to mention one thing. I know that there is a whole lot going on between Ukraine and Russia right now. And actually, it has been going on for a very long time. And if any of my listeners are impacted by this personally, I encourage you to reach out. There are resources that a lot of HR colleagues are sharing on LinkedIn that I'd love to be able to share. I've shared it on Instagram already, but I'll continue to share it. And just know that my thoughts are with, all of the innocent people who are impacted by this terrible, terrible situation of aggression. And I'm not an expert in these things, but just know that my podcast, my Instagram, I really try to focus on things that are uplifting because there is so much going on in the world pretty much at all times. But I hope that this is a place where we can all escape a little bit and talk about things that impact us in a different way, that maybe are more professional and sometimes personal, because our work lives and our personal lives intertwine in so many ways. But just know that I am really trying with all of my effort to keep this space fun and light and focusing on things that are serious and can be serious, but also in the grand scheme of things, work is still work and HR stuff is still HR stuff. And, fortunately, this is, in the grand scheme of things, not necessarily the most serious thing that we could go through. And so hopefully we can all, have this space as a breakaway from some of the things in life that feel super heavy. With that said, again, if anyone needs resources, please don't hesitate to reach out, whether it's by email, through Instagram, however I can help. I want to be able to help. So the other thing is that I want to remind you that I am a speaker in the Hacking HR conference. I've talked about this pretty much since last year, that I'm on a panel, and I'm a speaker in the Experts Council presentations. And I'm actually presenting on technology and innovation in HR on March 9th. So if you're listening to this before March 9th, click the link in the episode details or in my link tree, which you can find on my Instagram and in the episode details of every episode, and register. It is a free event, and actually all of the events throughout this week, the 7th through the 11th, are all free. So I would love if you joined and participated, or at least, listened to my presentation, and then also where I'm involved in a panel discussion. I'm just remembering this now, so reminder to myself, I am participating in a group discussion on why DE&I and belonging sometimes can fall apart. So again, click the link in my link tree, click the link in my show notes, my Instagram bio, and you can get connected and registered for the Hacking HR conference. Again, it's all virtual and it is all free. So this week, we're going to talk about how we navigate bosses who do not necessarily value our time and potentially don't necessarily value us. So first and foremost, let's set the stage. Someone, friend of mine, told me that she really didn't feel 100% valued and appreciated by her leader, and it came after, or I should say following, a very specific event. And that specific event was where she said, hey, leader, I have some concerns about a new policy, and I'd really love to talk to you about it and have a deeper understanding of where this is coming from and just ask some questions. They set up some time to meet. And as they sit down to meet, this friend of mine is sitting down in the office waiting for her leader. And it wasn't until 20 minutes later that the leader showed up. So strike number 1, the leader was late. Then in the conversation, the leader was, using their phone, typing emails, like not giving undivided attention. Strike number 2, a lack of 100% attention to the person connecting with you or speaking with you or sitting right in front of you can really send a message, obviously, that you don't care. Whether you do or not, it sends that very specific message. And then the third situation, or the third strike, I should say, is that after all of the questions were asked by my friend, the leader then said, I don't really have the answers to this. I think you should just go to the union. Yeah, strike number 3. And let's break this down in reverse order. So with this third situation, or I should say third strike in this situation, the leader basically deflects the ownership and their accountability because, first of all, when you're in a leadership role, even if you don't know the answer, you should be actively seeking to support your team. And so if someone comes to you saying, I have concerns, I have these questions, I want to know more, and I need your support, then you as a leader need to either figure out that answer or, express a little bit more support, then go to this person on the union. And so I share this example because I'm sure we've all been there where a leader says, sorry, can't help you. I have no idea the answer to your question, so go to this person. And that is just such a crappy response because, I don't know, I think about myself as a leader, and if someone on my team came to me asking questions and already sharing that they're concerned about something, then I would want them to feel as comfortable as possible. And the way that I would respond in that situation, if my friend were the person on my team coming to me, I would say, hey, I actually don't know the answers to these questions, but let me see what I can find out and come back to you. I hear your concern. I want to make sure I'm clear. And maybe I would even ask some clarifying questions so I know exactly what the person is trying to figure out and understand. But to just deflect ownership and push it onto someone else is not nice because the other person's going to be caught off guard. But 2, it just deflects accountability. And, we need some accountability in this life. Okay. So be accountable, don't push things off, and own them. So again, working backwards, the second strike, which was that the leader was not giving this person or my friend undivided attention. When you meet with someone, or if you are meeting with your leader, you're expecting to have a one-to-one conversation and have really their full attention because you've already set aside time to meet. So and I actually said this to my friend, I was like, it is possible that your leader didn't intend to send this message that they don't care, but that is intrinsically the message that's being sent, because when you are not giving 100% of your attention to the other person, it shows that you don't care, that you're not listening to what they're saying, that you don't actually care about what they're saying, which is why you are preoccupied with something else. And actually, I watched a really interesting documentary on Netflix. I think it was one of those 30-minute, the more you know type of episodes. I can't think of the series on Netflix, but anyway, I'll see if I can figure it out by the time the episode ends. This episode ends. Anyway, I was watching this show with my husband, and it was all about how people who multitask actually are not, multitasking, I should say, is not effective. And so this episode goes to say that when you do multitask, you are not fully focused, you're not able to remember the things that you're doing, and it impacts your actual recognition of what you're doing, and that it's just not effective the way focusing on one thing at a time is. And so this makes me think about with this leader that maybe she thought that she was being super efficient and managing multiple things and listening to my friend actively while also doing whatever else she was doing, email, phone, whatever, and not necessarily recognizing that she's sending this message that she doesn't care about my friend. So my, the role that I played in this, which was really playing devil's advocate, that maybe the leader didn't mean to send that message, is that actually this is exactly the point. She sent that message. So how do we navigate this? And this is really like the crux of the issue that we'll break down in a moment. But leaders, you have to be able to close the computer, put away your phones, and give that 100% undivided attention so that you're not inadvertently sending the message that you don't care about the person in front of you. And then the third strike, or I should say the first strike, because we're working backwards, bear with me, is that she was late for my friend's meeting with her. And that also sends the message that you don't care. Now, it's one thing if you're, running a few minutes late because you have a meeting that's run over, but normally you would send a message saying, hey, so sorry, I'm running late. Be there in X number of minutes. This didn't happen with the leader. She sent no message. And 20 minutes is a very long time. Like at that point, if you're 20 minutes late, reschedule the meeting, because that would really piss me off, because if my leader was 20 minutes late and didn't tell me, I would be like, now you're wasting my time too. So all of these things, these are the themes: wasting someone's time, not giving undivided attention, and then deflecting accountability. This is like a 3-strike, everything you're not supposed to do as a leader for your employee, this leader did. And so I thought it would be a good example to share this week, just to kind of reflect on how we navigate this situation. And we're always going to encounter leaders that, do things that we might not appreciate or talk to us in a way that we don't appreciate. But the reality is that we have to overcome adversity. Life is not without challenges, and life is certainly not without adversity. And actually, this is something that we're going to talk about on a guest episode, probably in April, because I have someone that I kind of dig into this a bit with. Anyway, I digress. We have to be able to, whether just as human beings or as employees, however you want to frame it, we have to be able to overcome these challenges. And yes, this is an annoying challenge, right? You have a leader that you actually pretty much respect, you have a good relationship with, but now they're demonstrating like a lack of care, consideration, and understanding for you and your time and your interests. And so this is just a matter of hopefully being a bump in the road that we need to work through. So my advice to my friend was that, hey, actually, I didn't give advice first. I first asked her, well, what are you going to do about it? Because for me, if you ever get coached by me or if you ever ask advice from me, I really try to give you or the other person an opportunity to come up with the solution, because you might actually have the solution. It's just a matter of receiving that validation. So I said, what are you going to do about it? And she was like, well, I want to say that, I didn't appreciate X, Y, and Z, all of these 3 strikes that we just talked about. Great solution, right? Address it, hopefully move forward, and then also get some answers. I suggested that while, yes, we can use I messages, meaning I felt this way when this happened versus you made me feel XYZ. If you don't know what an iMessage is, Google it, because it's actually a great way to prevent someone on the receiving end of your communication or message from feeling defensive. Certainly, there's still an opportunity for someone to be defensive when they're receiving feedback, but if you use an iMessage, you're setting yourself and them up for more success. Again, I digress. My suggestion to my friend was that she consider saying, hey, I want to circle back to this conversation that we had. I really am interested in having clearer answers. I didn't leave that meeting feeling like I'm 100% clear on, the concerns that I have. And I know that you don't necessarily have all the answers, but I would really appreciate your support. And secondly, I just want to tell you that when we were sitting down, I didn't feel like I had 100% of your, focus and attention. And I know that things are super busy and you have other things going on, but I would just appreciate so much if that when we are sitting down one-on-one, that we both give each other undivided attention, because, I'm sure it came from a good place and you didn't intend to make me feel this way, but this is what I walked away feeling like. And that kind of opens up more of a dialogue versus saying, I felt this way, and, what are you going to do about it? It kind of just sets the stage for the expectation and the standard. And obviously, things can go differently. We can go prepared into a conversation, ready to say X, and then we get caught up in the things that we're feeling or that we want to express. And maybe we get angry and frustrated and we end up saying other things. It's totally possible. But I think the more you can prepare for what you want to say or what your goal is, so maybe it's less about what you want to say, more about what you want the outcome to be, then at least you're setting yourself up for success. And I know from speaking with my friend that she definitely wants to approach things in this way to make it more of like a standard versus, you made me feel this way, and a little bit more of a dialogue to make her leader aware of how she walked away and feeling and leaving with a lack of clarity. And I would expect any leader to say, oh my gosh, I didn't even realize that was what I was doing, or that's not, that wasn't my intention. And thank you for letting me know. Because if I were the leader in this situation, I would want to know that I've made my employee feel that way. I think as employees, and I've been coming around to this thought a lot, especially because it was just Employee Appreciation Day, that we have to remember HR people are employees too. And my friend is not in HR, but I say this because of my own experiences. Like, I'm an employee just as much as a sales associate or an operations person or someone on the other, in finance, for example. We're all, just because we are people facing and we help solve the problems that are present in the internal business structure, doesn't mean that we don't also have our own employee issues or concerns. And I think that this is probably what's made or contributed to some of the stigmas related to HR, because sometimes I just don't think that people remember that we are employees as well. So I've been confronting this thought again and again and again. And obviously I've talked about this before on the podcast. But I do think, as HR professionals, if you are an HR professional listening, it's important to remember you're an employee too. And it is okay to bring up concerns that you also have for yourself. So when I think about how we can further navigate these types of issues, the first thing is exactly what my friend is going to be doing. And that's really bringing up the concern and giving feedback, because you can't expect that people are going to read your mind or that your leader is going to know exactly how you feel and think. That's not fair. Unless they are actually mind readers, they're not mind readers. And I have yet to meet a mind reader, but if I did, I would say, are you a people manager? Because this could be very helpful for you. But most people, I'm going to go ahead and say it on the record, most people are probably not mind readers. Number 2 is that we have to give people the benefit of the doubt, just like we want the benefit of the doubt. So it's easy to kind of get caught up when our leader does something that pisses us off or makes us annoyed or frustrated or angry. But we have to remember that it's not necessarily a reflection of their appreciation of you, and rather just like an unconscious part of their, day to day, that they're multitasking or they have a lot on their minds and they're, potentially sending this message that they don't actually mean to send, which is why the feedback and the conversation is so important, because it gives your leader or that person in the situation an opportunity to A, apologize, and B, correct themselves for the future. And, this point on giving the benefit of the doubt, I think comes back to the reality that life is not without adversity. And I think I kind of touched on this a little bit in my cancel culture episode from last year, but we have to be more accepting that people are going to make mistakes. And I say that as a leader and as an employee. I have definitely been the employee that's wanted to curse out my leader because I'm so angry and I think that they're doing something to directly negatively affect me. But that's an emotional response, right? And that's okay. It's okay to have an emotional response, but you have to kind of pull yourself out of it, pull yourself back, and think about the situation with more clarity and objectivity, because your leader is also a human being. Your leader is also an employee. And there are things that they are going to do that may be mistakes or maybe things that you're not happy with. And we have to give each other the benefit of the doubt. And we have to be able to have a conversation and respectfully have that conversation with one another. Not just have a conversation, but a respectful one. And be open to the apology and be open to moving forward. If, of course, a leader is doing something that is intentionally, hurting you, or where this person is intentionally trying to hurt you, then that's a different story. And, that's something that I've talked about on many episodes with bad leadership and all of that. And that maybe it's okay to quit, for example, on my episode about what I learned, that, if someone is doing something intentional that is not nice, then maybe you reflect on where you are and who you're working for. But I'm going to go ahead and say that probably in most cases, people are making mistakes, and we just have to be open to, forgiving and moving on and hearing either an apology and a move forward, or an acknowledgement of what happened and moving forward, and a change in behavior. So with that, I also wanted to share another question that I got, which was really about, my experience in leaving my job in less than 3 months and, before my current job. And someone messaged me on Instagram basically saying that, they're really not super happy with where they are, but they feel like they need to stay in their role because they, just started their HR career, and they don't want to have this like bump in the road, or, struggle to find another HR job because they're entry level. And I think, what I shared with this person is that it really depends on what you feel, and how bad things are for you. But and this kind of comes back to this theme on adversity. If this is, and I shared this with this person, if this is a situation that is challenging, but you can work through it, and it's not something that involves like harassment or intimidation or bullying or anything like that, then you probably can work through it, and it's probably worth working through. But if it's something that is super serious, like harassment, intimidation, bullying, etc., then no, you should probably leave or report it or do something that, really matches the level of severity. But coming back to this point on adversity, if life is challenging at work, that is normal. And it is okay for life to be challenging. And it's okay for you to have bad days at work, or bad weeks, or bad months. Work is work for a reason, and we're lucky if we have more good days than bad at work. And it's not to say that you should work somewhere that has more bad days than good, but my point is that it's normal to have challenges, and it's normal to kind of have an up and down feeling at work. Work is never, maybe for some people it's 100% amazing every day, but it's probably not happening. It's very easy for us to like watch a TikTok or watch an Instagram reel or see someone's stories where they're like, I love my job. This is amazing. Everybody that I work with is amazing. But that is a highlight reel of someone's life. Even for me on Instagram, I'm not sharing with you my bad days necessarily. I've definitely shared bad moments with you, but it's filtered a little bit because I also don't want to be pathetic. But, candidly, it's like what I mostly post on Instagram or TikTok, they are the things that I think are going to be the most impactful for you. And obviously I've shared bad days. Look, I shared that I quit my job in less than 3 months. That was a bad day. But the reality is that it's easy for us to look at these 30-second videos or moments and think that, wow, that person's got everything together. They have an amazing job. They get paid great. They have great social lives. But again, we all know if you have social media, you know that you are putting out what you want people to perceive about you. And that is why it's so important, I think, for us all to remember that life is not a highlight reel. It comes with ups and downs. And it ebbs and flows, and there might be good years, there might be bad years, good days, bad weeks, whatever that looks like. It's normal, and it is okay. And it's also okay to have that fight or flight like feeling where it's like, oh, work is bad. Like I kind of just want to leave. I have had that so many times. But if you can, again, if these are things that are not super severe, again, nothing that's like illegal, for example, and it's just like a disagreement or something that's annoying about your job today, think about like, is it worth your time to work through it? What are you going to get out of working through and overcoming that challenge? And that's what I said to the person who DM'd me. Write out a pros and cons list. Is leaving going to give you more or give you less? Because the grass is not always greener. And I think, again, recognizing that life is not without adversity maybe also helps us to remember that, these challenges are things, we're climbing a mountain when we're approaching a challenge or when we're, in a challenging moment. And to every valley, there's a peak. So we're working towards something. And the more challenges you overcome, the stronger you become, the more you learn. And I think I talked about it on my episode about bad leadership, that back in the day I had a bad leader and I worked with them for a year, and actually was something that I learned the most about myself, my leadership style, what I wanted, what I didn't want out of a leader and a job, everything. I learned so much, and I learned about like what I could withstand from that experience, from that challenge. And so, I think that we're in a position as a society today where we want everything to be exactly as we want it, and we expect everything to be perfect and crisp and clean and precise, but that is not the way life works. So again, we'll talk about this more in a later episode, but my best advice is to, again, if it's nothing severe or illegal, work through it and learn from it. Have takeaways, reflect on the experience, and give feedback. Don't isolate yourself within your feelings. Really think about what you're feeling, what your goals are, and what you need, whether it's from your leader, a peer, whoever the person in the situation is kind of making you feel the way you're feeling. Think about it, reflect, give feedback, and hopefully you can move forward in a positive direction together, but especially as an individual. With that is the end of this episode. I can't believe almost 30 minutes has flown by, but nevertheless, here we are. I have a very exciting episode next week with a guest that I think you're really going to love. And actually next Tuesday, which is when this guest episode will be published, is National Women's Equal Pay Day. So we are going to be talking about that. We thankfully were able to figure out that the episode was perfectly tied together to this national holiday. So hopefully you will enjoy, and I hope that you've enjoyed the guest interviews and episodes that have kind of happened these last few months. I have amazing guests coming up too. It's just amazing who you can meet and who's out there and what you can talk about. So with that, I will see you next week. Thank you so much for being here again. And don't forget to rate, review, and subscribe, and share this episode or the show with a friend. Thank you so much. See you next week.